In this video, we are discussing undervalued Solana NFTs that are available to buy on the secondary market right now. As usual, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. It really helps us out with these daily NFT videos. And as always, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. The NFT space is incredibly risky, especially the Solana space. So always do your own research. Easy. What's going on, amigo?
All is well over here. We had a lot of fun yesterday in the Soul space. We've seen some fun things going on, so really can't complain much. Soul's at 140, so like, how could I possibly be mad? It's up $60 from its low.
Damn, that's really
That's a
high.
nice little
That's
rip
pretty.
here.
Wow, that's crazy. So what's up with DeGods right now?
Yeah, so you can see front page something that is real interesting here. And actually, if you want to filter on the left side, there
Yeah.
should be like a variance option at the very last filter option, and you can change it to Dead Gods. The reason I wanted to really talk about DeGods here is they've kind of solidified themselves as this blue chip in the space now. Their kind of project leader, Frank, is the big name that is driving a lot of the marketing effort and really getting a lot of the hype around the project, which is awesome. So this is a way for them to actually burn the existing DeGods and turn them into these hand-drawn Dead Gods, which a lot of people really like the art. So I'm a huge fan of how these look. A little bit less cartoony, more kind of flat,
Yeah, I
cleaner
remember when we
style.
talked about these. I mean, yeah, it's solid artwork for sure.
Yeah, so this was a nice little change here. I was very excited with the end result here. They wanted to make them a little bit more, I guess you could say, gory to fit that style. So for me, I keep looking at them and I'm still torn. I didn't buy them at 6 when I talked about them on video. But it's a project that just got so much hype behind it right now. People are still just loving the community. You have everyone on Twitter changing their username to 3333, which is like their 3.33, I think is their kind of mark, which is really interesting. But yeah, so they said that all of these are one of one layered because of the overlapping layers and assets. Each trait matches the existing trait on the DeGod. So I just thought there was a lot of thought that went into this. Dust is deflationary, which is their currency. So just a lot of metrics and kind of moving parts going around that shows the thought is there for once, and it's something we don't always see in the soul space.
Have you gotten into DeGods at this point?
No. So I'm very against buying like over 20. It's just something about it. Like with Soul ripping too, it's very hard for me. I've also said like I'm kind of bearish on Soul NFTs going into OpenSea. So I do think everything is going to pull back when that goes live. So I'm a little hesitant to spend that money. But what I did get into yesterday, if you want to pull it up, is a project called DeGens, which
Okay, but
is
and real quick on DeGods though, are you looking for an entry right now on DeGods?
I am. So I want to see these pull back honestly into like the 60 range if we get it. So almost like a 50% retracement because they've exploded, but I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. And this is actually why I'm bringing up the second project because it's a derivative of DeGods that I made a play on because of this FOMO. Um, and yeah, so that top one right
This
there.
one, yep.
Yeah, so this was kind of a joke on it. They made like fat DeGods called DeGens.
Yeah.
This was a 0.06 mint, so up to 1.4, so it's done what, almost 20x. I minted 49 of these
Oh my
and
God.
sold them. It's so funny. Like this, you can tell they went like a lot of thought went into this too, as like a meme type of play. So this was a ton of fun. Like we saw the ticker kicking at like a couple hundred on the mint, and as soon as I minted one, it had actual metadata on them. So they were launched from a website called Launch My NFT, which many people associate with like scams and low effort, almost like launching your own collection on OS and just kind of like doing the bare minimum to get a collection off the ground. But this team like actually put metadata on it. So I was like, okay, this has the meme potential, the DeGods FOMO, and shows the team actually wanted to like not roll out some pure garbage. And the art's not terrible. Like they literally went through each one and made it one of one like fat versions, which is hilarious. So the hype on these yesterday was crazy. 10% royalties. So the creators have made 600 soul off of this. So almost 70 grand on a meme project, which
Okay.
is insane. I really enjoyed the fact that they rolled it out with the Discord too, kind of making jokes about the existing one. The creator of DeGods is a guy named Frank. The creator of DeGens is a guy named Frank, like with an O. Instead of 3333, they do E's. So it's like E.EE. So like they're just making complete joke of it. And even like the bio says same as DeGods, just not as good. So like it's a pure joke. I mean, the fact it got up to 1.4, its high was 2.4. So you had like a 40x on your hand with this. And I felt good when I minted them. I was like, okay, here's the deal. Honestly, I think the move here is to buy these because they actually look like some thought went into it, like I said. But what I really want to get into is the fact that a lot of people are going to have this DeGods FOMO. So having that DeGods FOMO play into some of this made me just really bullish on the project. And even in my head, I was like, these really might trade one. But I said it yesterday in a tweet because people were kind of clowning me for selling at like 0.5, 0.6. And I was like, there's in no world am I holding a derivative that launched on a low effort platform past a 10x. Like it's primed to go to zero. You know what I mean? So
So
for
you
me,
bought
I
at
was sitting there.
0.06, you minted at
Yep.
0.06, and you let them go at 0.5, 0.6. So you had a legitimate 10x on your hands.
Yeah, I think it was like I spent like 3 Sol and left with like 20 something after the fact. So it was a good trade. I started like a 10 Sol challenge wallet and I used the last 3 Sol I had in it to mint as many of these as I could. So that pumped me. I was hyped. It's just hilarious because like this is honestly something you see a ton of in the Sol space. Like derivatives can do well, uh, especially for
Do you
these. And
think
I mean, there's
are they a buy here?
no way, no way in hell. Because like we don't know what's gonna happen. Like it's a derivative. This project, if this project rugged, I would be so unsurprised. Like I woke up this morning shocked it was still kicking. So it feels like they just kind of got this like weird cult community now of people who just couldn't get exposure to DeGods that wanted something that was fun. And from far away, you look at the picture and you're like, oh, is that a DeGod? And then you click it and you get this. It looks like a larva lad head on top of a DeGod body, you know? So
Is
it's a little funny.
is there any situation where someone should buy back into this?
So that's tough because like if they do figure out a way to partner with DeGods to use their token dust on anything, then there is a chance that these can keep mooning. That's the crazy part. Like if they have some official partnership, then these are just gonna fly. There was a fake screenshot going around yesterday of DeGods saying that dust would be integrated into this. That ended up pushing these past one with like a ton of volume. We saw like 3,000 Sol kick these over one. And that was surprising to me. A bunch of my friends were like, is this real? Like, is this screenshot legit? So I had to go to the Twitter and actually look, like, do your own research type of thing. And sure enough, it was fake. So that was a fun one.
And so what else? So, I mean, this, for example, this is a parallel to what we're seeing on ETH right now. So on ETH, Azuki is having its big, like, coming out party. It flipped Mutant Apes. It was pushing a 30 ETH floor last night. I don't know what it is at right now. I'm assuming it maybe cooled off. I'm going to pull it up just to see. I know
I'm curious too.
it's at 29, so it's kept moving. So, yeah, so Azuki's like the big thing right now on Ethereum, and as a result, other anime projects are starting to pump. There's a project called Akuma that we talked about yesterday, literally just over 24 hours ago on the morning show, and at that time it was 0.3 ETH, and now it's 1 ETH because a lot of people aped into it, thinking that, okay, well, if Azuki's 29 ETH, then this other unrevealed new anime project that probably has some good art could pump really hard. And, everybody that made that pick at 0.3 ETH was absolutely right. Dingaling basically swept the floor from 0.7 ETH to 1 ETH. He's a really, really big, ETH investor. So I view this as like a really shitty version of that process.
So you can actually see some similar, though. If you want to look at Akari, Akari,
Yep.
this is a project that's getting some of that Azuki FOMO. And this project was actually slapped with a derivative tag at first for Azuki. They reached out to Magic Eden, proved that the art was completely unique. They have an in-house Japanese artist, and these are
copying
running
Azuki, though. It's copying Azuki.
for sure. I mean, like one of the main attributes is a skateboard on this collection too. So like you can't tell me it's not ripping some of those ideas. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's just a complete ripoff of Azuki. But I mean,
For sure.
regardless, whatever. Shout out to the team that made this. What did they mint at? And did you get in on this? What would did
So
you play
I
this
missed
one?
the mint, but I am holding 6 that I entered around 4. So I saw the kind of like the people were getting very excited about this project because it had that Azuki feel. We're seeing a ton of Solana people change their profile pictures to these. So when you typically see that, like that's a good sign. It's always that social sentiment to me that if people feel comfortable making this like their Web3 identity, there's a good chance it's going to move. So as I started to look into this project a little bit more, they do have a token, which is like the DeFi stuff and Sol almost goes hand in hand always. Like every project has a token of some sort, but it's how they leverage that token because a lot of people are very specific on tokenomics and if they're sustainable. So this project worked with sea shanties, which we've covered a few times, to build out their LP in tokenomics, and it's a really small supply at 2,222. So those factors, I was like, okay, this is a really good play at 4. Saw them push down from 7, picked up one at 6 and 6.8, and even here at 9, like I'm almost certain this is going to trade double digits. Somebody this morning even said they made a comment like, does anybody else feel that this has same price action as Cats on Crack, which is like at a 27 floor now, and we saw kind of this like community form around this project in the soul space, and we're starting to see very similar from Akari. So I'm really interested in some of these too for it to trade over that. There was a really good opportunity last night to actually lend in their pool at 400% APY. So yes, you do have the impermanent risk, but I also like the downside exposure because now you're also betting that the token should sustain. And even if the token declines with the floor price of this project, you were looking at still some back end protection with that APY. So I was really liking how they kind of had all of that live day one. Many projects are like, we're releasing staking in a few weeks. This project sold out and was like, here's the website, go stake. Missions launching next week, which kind of gamifies staking where you can take risk and kind of gamble some of the token. And then they took a page out of DeGods book where they're going to be buying blue chips on Sol and auctioning them off with their token. So it provides a deflationary mechanism on the token, rewards holders that do stake, hold, and keep that. And then kind of figure out what they want to do from there. So yeah, this is one project. Even at 9, like I'm looking at it, feeling comfortable to get in. I like a lot of the building behind it and just a consistent price action. Like we haven't seen a massive sell off. Listings are still under 10% and they're sitting at over 80% staked. So many good metrics on this project that for me, I'm like, I really do like kind of what they did here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it looks like they did a high effort ripoff of Azuki. Do you think that there's going to be more anime stuff that comes out on Sol now that pumps as Azuki continues to rip?
So that's the thing. As Azuki kind of hit the scene and we saw Murray and everything else kind of launching, Sol had its same kind of approach to that. We had Cam 1, we had a few others that were similar, but they're all trading 0.01 at this point, like basically dead projects.
Yeah.
For some reason, this was the one that stuck. And I saw that because it had never traded really under that 4 floor. It held that for a few days. And I was like, okay, so that shows that buyers are stepping in every single time this touches 3, which usually pushes the floor price higher because now people aren't going to want to exit with a 10% royalty unless it's giving them at least a better kickback. And a lot of them were just immediately buying and staking, which shows these people are anticipating some forward progress on it and believe that longer term that token is going to pay for assets that they acquire on the secondary to then sell to their holders and just some other moving mechanics. I mean, I want to try to understand how that quest is going to play into it. Like I like the risk reward style, like how Wolf Games did that alpha game and stuff like that. So some of that stuff I'm a little bit interested in. It's tough to really say though, like to your point with Azuki flying, I think we are going to see more projects try to come out with anime style on all blockchains. We're even seeing it with the few you had just mentioned as well, you know? So it's tough to really be fading that when something's pumping to 30 ETH over on Ethereum, which is just crazy.
Yeah, I'm pissed I didn't swap out my mutant ape. I mean, you know, hindsight's 2020. Fuck it. I don't forget.
I had a buddy sell his top like 1500 rarity for 18 when Azuki was 8, kicking himself and bought back in at 16 2 days ago. So he's like feeling big brain. I'm envious. The guy's made 30 grand in his sleep. Like just an absolute play. But I don't know. This art style is not really my thing. So like I never really got behind it.
Yeah. But we never saw like the kind of anime moment in the NFT space. Like Oni Force should have brought it. I mean, Oni Force had like a real pump, I think just because it was the first anime. I'm finding out recently that they like scrapped their first team. So I mean, to me, that's a rug.
Oni Force did?
Yeah.
When? What?
Yeah.
How recent is this?
I found out about it in the past 7 days. That's a rug. That's what a rug is.
Oh man, that's bad.
So that's a rug. And someone else came in, I guess, to take the project over. I also don't know why people do that. I know that your boy Soulport Tom came through and just basically, you know.
But that's like a one-off situation. Like that's
Right.
so unique for someone to take something over and actually build it into kind of something crazy. So like for me, that was a really one-off thing. We see so many D-rugs in Soul and it pumps the floor price. And I'm such like an anti-advocate, a naysayer, if you will, on D-rugging because it's an artificial pump that leaves a bunch of secondary bag holders now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I know it's more common on Sol. We've seen it a little bit on ETH with some other stuff. I mean, look, so Oni Force, turned out to be a rug, right? Apparently. Then there was a hyped up project you might remember called the Sevens. Okay, that was also
Yes,
anime
that like
style.
shut down OpenSea for like 6 hours after that launch. There was all the scuff stuff with them giving away a ton of them. Oh, yeah, that was bad. That
Yeah,
was bad.
well, I just pulled it up. I haven't looked at it in months. What do you think the floor is on the Sevens right now?
0.06.
0.1.
Wow, I was close. I'm impressed. Because that
It's
was a
just
kind of thick
ridiculous.
mint too. It was like 0.3, 0.4. It was not cheap.
So those two projects basically had a golden opportunity to really do what Azuki is doing right now, and they just completely botched it, just totally like fucked it up so bad. They basically said, I'm the primary sale revenue is good enough for me. You know, like that's all I want. Like that's enough money for me to just like, you know, be done. And that's what
Yeah.
happens. So now Azuki's here, and this is the anime moment I think the NFT space has been waiting for. Think about it. The NFT space started popping off in like, you know, March, April, May of last year, had a big explosion in like, you know, the late summer, like August when Bored Apes started popping. It's taken long enough for a quality anime project to come out in a space that's super primed for anime to bust out. So here you are. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more stuff on Solana that's anime related that starts to pump with Azuki, you know?
No, exactly. I'm interested too because like with this, we see a lot of like comics and stuff like that from like Pixel Vault to the Gutter Cat comic. So it almost makes sense that anime finds its place. And like we haven't even seen like an anime manga or comic play yet, which is like I feel like those things go hand in hand. So I'm a little bit surprised about that. I feel like it's just a match made in heaven when all these other projects are pumping out, I guess even physical stuff too. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like it's going to show up. Someone in the chat asked you a question. They asked, "Easy, what price range in Solana would you look to spend on a project if you're new to being in the Solana space? Like for an entry level person, let's assume this person is willing to put $500 into the
Mhm.
NFT space." Sometimes I wonder if that's even an entry price. I mean, look, people that are watching, let us know what you started with when you started trading Solana. Seriously though, pop it in the chat. Not an
Yeah, I'm
engagement farm
curious.
thing. Like I want to know. Like what when someone got into Solana, what was the US dollar amount that they put in and said, "This is my starting point
This is my
of
bag.
of Solana. This is my bag." Throw it in the chat. I want to know. So $300. Okay, got it. 300
Yeah, so
bucks.
even but and think about that. So that's about 3 Sol. When it even if you started the last 2 months, because Sol had been trading under $100. 500 now is probably like 3.5, 4 Sol, even if that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good, honestly, a good starting point
Hmm.
because there's so many mints. Once Sol is holding over like 120, everyone freaks out if a mint is over 1 Sol. For
Yeah.
some reason, that's like the mental number. Like 120 hits, don't mint over 1 Sol. All hell will break loose if you say 2 Sol, which sadly we saw with MetaWana, which they even said like we were not anticipating this Sol to pump, like we wanted to do it when Sol was at 90. And a lot of people probably would have been fine then because the price is just so much cheaper. We've seen it move a lot, but with something that's like 300-400 bucks, a lot of it really is like hitting a mint and grinding in a Discord. But what's crazy too is with Sol, like you can actually start with 0. Like quite truthfully, you can start with
By
$0.
grinding or how?
Yeah, so if you get into a Discord that is doing whitelist with a token and you just get in early, like there is, I think it's called like, let me find the name of this project. It's a perfect example of it though, because their whitelist token, I anticipate goes for 3 or 4 Sol. So that
So
right
you
there
get
is a 0 to
airdropped
3 Sol.
okay,
A
you
token,
you
yeah.
you get airdropped a token that you get it for free, and then it has 3 soul of value. So boom.
Exactly. So it's the project's called Dollies, which is like a cartoonish style. It's not on secondary yet, but I anticipate them. So it's probably only Twitter. But I anticipate this project to be a good whitelist grind because that token should trade that 3-4 range. And you get, like you just said, you get airdropped it, and then you can trade it on Famous Fox Federation. So even the Akari project, they were nervous they weren't going to sell out. Their token was trading like zero point 0.4, zero point 0.5. But so they were actually giving more away to people. So right there, if you had whitelist, you could have ended up getting 3 to 4 of those. And even off that, you could have minted this at 2 Sol. You still have a Sol in the bag, and now these are up to 9. So I do think finding some of those right projects and just taking your time to talk to these teams and figure out what a project is trying to do. Are they familiar with the space? And really gauging social hype. If their Twitter and Discord are going crazy, always everyone trying to get whitelist, the chat's nonstop, no matter what your starting value is in Sol, you should be able to dive into that, get those tokens, and actually make trades off of it, which is a zero cost, very low risk reward, and you're able to kind of just go right from there.
Okay, well that's good advice here. So what's going on with our MetaWana bags right now?
Oh man, so I did talk to the team about kind of their secondary rollout. They have another mint coming for their baby buds, which is the start of their auto chess game. Each one of these they call their like OGs, or kind of their, I don't want to even say it's like their first mint, but this is like their pass to all future mints and the nugs that you can actually play in the game. They pushed the release of the game back 7 days to get the baby bud mint in. They took some feedback from Fractal. The response was honestly pretty negative from the community because they wanted to do a 2-sol mint. They did say that they were going to drop the cost of the mint right before, just like the first mint. They ended up making it free from a 0.42. I'm still holding all of mine. I haven't listed a single one. I want to kind of see how the game pans out, but I was definitely upset to see a 2-sol cost when your floor price is under that for another mint. I get they have to raise funds, but in my opinion, if they went like 1-sol cost, they easily could have made secondary royalties that would have paid for this.
Got it. All right. Well, we'll
So
have to
that's
see.
tough.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with this one.
The one thing I do want to call out here too, there's one project that I did say I wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
So DGen Ape Academy has 2 companion collections. So it should just be 2 separate words. DGen Ape,
Degenerate.
should be yeah, degenerate. So full word. So those 2 first collections, the Ape Kindergarten, you can see is damn near 100 soul floor.
Wow.
The apes are also 100 soul floor. And the third, their companion drop, the Trash Pandas, is one thing that I felt is severely undervalued. So last night I was debating for a few hours if I should
Trashy
pick up these
pandas or a different one?
So they're called degenerate trash pandas.
Got it.
So trashy pandas is some bad derivative of it. So this though, I think is severely undervalued. There's 16K supplied to the 10K of the kindergarten eggs in the DGen apes. So at 10 soul last night, I ended up picking up 3 of these. I felt that they're severely undervalued because of the fact that their kind of lead collection is trading at a 10x. So for me, I'm like, that's crazy. The art looks better than most things. The 3D render, OG project in the space. I actually ended up buying a few of these at 3, listed them at 5, and they got swept the next day. So I was like, all right, that's terrible. Like I dropped the ball there because now they're at 9. So I ended up buying back in last night, which I always say like I never double dip, but this just feels like such a good play to me because at a 1/10 of the price, official secondary project, it seems like a no-brainer for it to get some potential upside. There is still, I think, 3,200 that can be minted because the token you can mint from a token, and that token sells on secondary for 13 to 14 soul right now. So even to mint or buy that token, these are still technically underpriced, 3 to 4 soul. Made me real comfortable picking up 3. I said I wanted to even buy more, but I'm hoping they kind of pull back to 7 so that I can dollar cost average a few more. But this project, it's just an OG project. I've had a few conversations the past week with a few people on the ETH side of things who have some larger bags than most that have specifically asked about this project in DGen
Really?
Apes. Yeah, so for some reason, this seems to be the one that catches the eyes. They tend to like see this project and think it might be a good project. They ask what my thoughts are. I've never been a big fan of it, to be completely honest. Something about the apes has always just kind of bothered me. But now I'm like, shit, if other people are interested and they think of this project when they think of Soul, this is going to move. So yeah, I mean, I ended up just buying a few of these and holding on to them now. I do think we're going to see 15, 16 floor. It wouldn't shock me if they got up to about that 20% of their higher kind of tier. And even that, like just saying that out loud, 20% of their official project makes me still feel it's undervalued. Like when we look at mutants to apes, similar idea, just OG project, similar size, ton of community backing. They do great partnerships with Solsteads to Desolates to you name it, a bunch of the metaverse plays. So yeah, I mean, I'm really comfortable buying these here at 10. They average about 20 to 30 sales every 3 hours, which is consistent volume for the last few days, which exactly why we've seen it make a 3x. And yeah, the big thing is I'm just kicking myself I didn't buy more of them when they were 3.
And so what's your target for this one?
I'm going to probably start to scale out around 15. So 15, 16, 18 on a run up to 20, especially if those apes can hold that 100 floor for a little bit longer. That makes total sense why people who want exposure to that ecosystem would opt for the cheaper option, you know?
Sure. All right. Well, any other projects to look at on the secondary market today in the Solana world?
No, so I think those are probably the few. I guess you could even say they're a little bit more expensive here. The DeGens is an interesting one, especially if they get an official call out or even mention from DeGods. Um, Trying to even just think what's, I guess, on the cheaper side of things here for those that may not have the kind of bags to make a play on that. I am looking again at mini Royale Nations. Their season 2 is coming out, so that shooting game that you and Kicks love to play.
Yeah.
So I do think we're going to see some decent price action going into that. They are going to be launching a few tournaments for their season 2. So kind of watching these a little bit closely, especially as they start to trend towards that one soul floor. I really like the mechanics of this. It seems like it's the first person shooter that you can own the skins for, and definitely on the cheaper side. So trying to just watch how that moves, see what really happens with it, and kind of figure out what longer term plans they might have and what they might be able to deliver on.
Got it. And shout out to Jersey NFT. We got to get him on the show soon. He was watching yesterday and pinging in the chat. So we got to get you on the show soon, Jersey. Yeah, and everyone, thanks for watching. Make sure you follow Easy at Easy Eats Bodega. Make sure you sign up for FTX real quick. I'm just going to throw our FTX link on here. So that it's thenifty.com/FTX on your mobile phone, because I know a lot of you DGens are using your phones. It's just going to be the code THENIFTY. THENIFTY. Sign up there. There's gasless transactions for NFT trades, and then super low cost of fees to be able to buy all the crypto that you're buying, whether you're buying Solana, which I know a lot of you are, ETH, whatever. Super cheap fees compared to other platforms, and then gasless transactions for NFTs. Plus, if you spend over $10 on crypto, you're going to get free crypto, and they do dope drops all the time. So sign up. You're supporting us. You're helping us out with our sponsor. We appreciate it. Easy. As always, thanks for coming on, amigo.
Hey, always, thanks for having me.